Hey guys, welcome back to another chair sketch video. Today, I'm just gonna start doodling. Get the brainstorms going. Here's our doodles last week. Figured I'd start a new page. This week was pretty crazy. I'm actually posting this a little late. Usually I do the chair sketch on Monday, but this week I'm sketching on a Friday. I talked at Apple this week, so I thought I would do some sort of Apple-inspired chair, and I'm not really sure what that is. But we're gonna figure it out. I mean, we could do some sort of iPhone X chair, get the notch in there. I also talked at Pratt this week, design school here in Brooklyn. It was good too. Of course, as always, we're just trying to get the soul of the idea, the brain, the essential piece. This is like the most important part of the sketch. Apple has these stools in their store that kind of look like, well, they are cubes, and then there's a sphere inside, and you can pull the sphere out. So you can sit. You can have two seats. I mean, I like it. I'm trying to think of how I can incorporate it to be into a bigger chair and not a stool. Oh, we could do some sort of kind of like a drawer on the bottom. You could pull it out, extend it. It's kind of cool. I could dig that. Sometimes I always think that I've done this before. I've done so many chair sketches now. Also, if you guys have suggestions on content you want me to provide on Patreon, let me know. I mean, I'm open to it. The kind of the goal with Patreon is to take an existing thing you already do and just give more in-depth look or behind-the-scenes content. I mean, one day I'd love to just do, side projects and all kinds of things and take you through the process of that. But for now, it's just essentially capturing behind-the-scenes content. I've definitely done this type of chair before, but I was thinking we could do plywood. Definitely want to have a little handle there. What about something like it's like kind of cut, maybe? No, I don't know. There is something cool with this drawer aspect. I've done a few kind of like that. I remember I did the one that had the cushion in here, which I was kind of drawing originally. What if we did something like they have the iPod, the classic iPod, or the MacBook, that aluminum, beautiful aluminum MacBook. It'd be kind of interesting if we did. Having that kind of notch in that MacBook. I think the drawer idea is still strong. Maybe this is metal instead of wood. Could be some sort of aluminum frame. Or, what about, you could do the slotted shape. Although I've done this one before. I mean, there's the HomePod, Apple's HomePod. Kind of looks like this. You also have the iMac, which does this kind of sunflower shape. I think that's what it was inspired by, the sunflower. Has a little stem on the back. I mean, that could be interesting. Interesting chair. I mean, it's kind of like a perfect form for a chair. Could have it come back and then back up. And over. See, now I feel like I've done this chair before. If I haven't done it, someone's done it. What if this was all just bent? Like the leg bent over. And then the back How would this work? The back bent up. I swear I've done a chair so similar to this. I'm gonna look it up right quick. There's one that I remember where I did bent plywood. Yeah, it's this one. Oh man, that's really close. But I could do like aluminum. I could do like bent aluminum or something, and really try to somehow celebrate the material. I could also what if I also did one that was more rounded? Maybe not. Sometimes it takes a while to get an idea, as you guys can see. I think my other videos have a much quicker brainstorm session, but maybe I'm just out of it this week. It's been a long week. What about if the actual stand part was the actual seat? So it kind of comes back like this. It comes up. Something like that. Okay, what if we go back to our drawer idea with the wood and the extra cushion? The ones at the Apple Store actually had box joints, which is kind of interesting because I mean, I never do joinery in my sketches, but maybe we had some joinery in here. Kind of interesting, right? I think the joinery makes the sketch. I like that idea. Let's try it. I mean, that'll be something new and different. Okay. 16 minutes in, we got our idea. Let's switch over to the iPad. Alright, let's open up a 10-inch by 10-inch canvas. And I'll pick my custom ballpoint pen, which you guys can download, of course, on the Patreon, and start roughing this guy out. Let's look at our last sketch. So our last sketch was pointing to the right. I think we can do this guy pointing to the left. It's not a big deal. I mean, you can always flip it midway, but I like to kind of have them changing. So I'm just quickly doing some rough line work to get the perspective down and kind of the idea. I'm actually kind of thinking that it should be straight, super flat. I also think I'm going to kind of have the cushion coming halfway out. Adding a little bit of bow to these lines instead of doing like a straight line across, just giving it a bit of curvature. Makes it look more like a cushion. Now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this back here. I mean, I could just do... There's actually a pretty famous chair that I can't quite remember, but it's like a do-it-yourself chair. Just a bunch of wooden planks and you screw them together. And it has like a boxy base like this and legs like this. And the side kind of does that. Just getting the perspective down. That looks good. Now I gotta figure out kind of what I'm doing here. I mean, what if it was something kind of like this. You had some sort of wooden back like that. It's kind of cool, right? It's very woodworky, if that's a word. Of course, would have a little handle here. Not really sure. I feel like Apple wouldn't do something like this. I feel like it needs to be a little cleaner somehow. What if it's just like the back of the chair is slanted? Because usually I would do something like this and then put a flat top on it. But what if it was just kind of like a L shape like this? I kind of dig that. I might extend this out a bit more. Bring it down a bit. Yeah, I can dig that. I can dig that. It's a boxy chair. All right, that looks good. Let's put some crisp lines over this guy. So I'm going to turn the opacity down on this sketch layer down, 7%. Keep it light, really light, so you don't get distracted. And I'll come in here and start adding in some crisper lines. If you want to cheat, you can do the old draw the line, hold it, and then it turns into a straight line. I don't usually do that just because, I don't know, there's something natural about just doing it by hand. There's a little waviness in your stroke. Probably shouldn't have erased this little line in here, because I'm trying to kind of get the perspective, but I'm not exactly sure where this comes down here. And then it's going to be just pieces of wood. Not too thick, but definitely like substantial boards, maybe like inch thick boards. So I'm drawing these lines dark because when you see both sides of a line or a face, or not face, when you see both sides of a form, so I'm seeing this face and this face, I do two lines, but really light lines, and that indicates like a small curve, a small fillet. But I can only see this face. So I'm going to draw a dark line. Same with all the outline. All right. Do a light line here, 2 light lines. Actually, I'll redo that. Let's do a little cheat here. And then we'll have the cushion coming out here, so it's going to be kind of coming out but also tilting down, just kind of over this, because the chair kind of comes underneath it. So I'm going to kind of have it coming out like this. Also, a kind of a tip with soft goods is if you draw slower, you can't draw as straight of a line, so you get more of a wavy look with your cushion. And then I always draw a little dip in where the seam is, so I don't know if maybe the seam will go around the front here. I think that would look nice. Let's erase this line. Kind of depends on the style you want to, and the cushy part of the cushion. I mean, if it's going to be like a really taut cushion, then you probably don't want it to be super flowy. If it's like curtains or something, feel free. But if it's stuffed is the word I was looking for, taut, I'm actually going to go around this way instead. Or I could just go all... Nah. And then add in this handle here. Here's a little tip. When you do like straps or anything, well, first of all, let me just sketch it in here. I always try to give it some thickness. And the way you do that is instead of like going like this and then drawing that, well, this is kind of a bad strap. Let me just adjust it a little bit. Something like that. You can sketch. This is actually not a great example, but let's say you got a strap kind of like this. Some sort of box here. Instead of having this line come straight up and connect over, all you have to do to give it some thickness is take an eraser and just erase this. Just like that. Before, after. You can see it gives it a much more realistic look. Let's undo that. Okay. I'll come in here, do some stitching. I can also come in here, add a really light line to this edge, just gives it some more thickness. Let's add in all this joinery that we're gonna do now. So I'm always a fan of keeping it simple, and because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of do, well, I think I'm going to start up here first. So it's going to kind of come around like this. And then this piece is going to come over into here, like that. And then up here, this top piece won't even have much joinery, it'll just kind of sit in there. And then we'll just match this joinery here. So come across, coming across. This will be an interesting when we start to put color on this one and texture, because the end of wood is different than the side of the wood. And then down here, I'm going to actually make this corner a bit sharper. Because essentially, this piece goes straight to the corner. And then next would just go right here. Just zooming out to kind of check the scale of things, and then we got, so the next one kind of goes in the middle here. Yeah. Right now for this front piece, let's, right, so this would come, let me look at this. Right, so this is coming down like this. I'm not doing super dark lines on this joinery, I'm just trying to get it light so that you can kind of see what's going on. Well, it'll really pop out. We can really pop it out later on. Alright, so now I'm just going to mirror the bottom here to the top, which hopefully, I believe, will work out just like we want it to. Right? Yeah, okay, I think it looks good. I might just kind of adjust this down here so it kind of, these joints seem a little bit longer to match this joint. You kind of just got lucky. I mean, you kind of can eyeball and space it, but in terms of spacing, just kind of went for it, and you know, probably be like a little bit off here or there, and you can kind of fake it. Gets the point across. And then of course we can match it on the other side, so we'll do that. Right, so we'll come up here, go over. like that. And then now if you really want to kind of pop these out, put a little crease where these joints are. A little dot. Gives it some more dimension. If we really want to, we can kind of do a double line to show that it's kind of two surfaces coming along here. Might do that kind of closer to the front. Leave these back ones alone. But these front ones you can kind of like accentuate with a separate little excuse me. See, you're just kind of popping them out really lightly. And then right here, definitely it'll be of kind of a, since this part's like really close to the main part of the sketch, so we'll accentuate that. This is kind of a fun chair because it's very feasible, for one, and anyone can just look at it and they would be able to make it. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I'm actually just going to erase this top piece because it's just a little bit busy and there's really no need. Alright, so turn our ghost layer off there. And my cushion, I honestly think it's a little bit too loose. I'm going to come in here, tighten it up a bit. Looks a little bit better, I think. All right. Cleaning up any of these extra lines here. Some people actually like to keep those lines in, like these ones, just to gives it some more construction, but it's up to you. I also know some people add these lines in afterwards, purely as a style thing. Some people will come in after they did the sketch and do this, or like that. Maybe it works for like cars and things, but not necessarily chairs, I don't think, in my opinion. All right, so I just added these like light curve lines. You know, it's rounding the corner here, so I'm just putting a quick fillet on it. Also gonna do some construction lines here, contour lines, not construction lines. Construction lines are just really light, helps define the shape a little bit. And it'll be great for this joinery part right here because we can come over, turn it down, come down, and really give it that separate wood panel look that we want. Alright, I think that's looking good. I could also do one more on this side, but I don't think I'm going to do it. Okay. Let's see if we can just scale this up a little bit. Oh, we could. I might just thicken it a bit. Just a tad. Also, a good way to check your perspective is flip it. Alright, so let's do the secondary sketch up here. And normally you can do like a secondary rough sketch on this rough layer. But this is such an easy design that I didn't do it. Alright, so we make a new layer, come up here. I always do like a ground plane. Draw a line, hold it to be a straight line, and then you can put second finger down to snap to horizontal. So the back's coming up like this, maybe not that far, more like this. Then the front's straight. And then got something kind of like this going on. And I might draw in kind of the cushion coming out, and then we'll also give it an arrow because that'll really help show what's going on here. Put in a quick contour line. It's more like an orthographic line actually, but in theory it's a contour line too, because a contour line from an orthographic view would just be straight up and down. And then let's add in our joinery here. So 2 right here. Being pretty, quick with it on this part, mainly just because we're not trying to get this side view exact or anything. It's just mainly for explanation, and it's something to kind of add another element to the sketch. And then like that. All right. Next step is to add in our gray layer, and the gray layer is just for selecting. So we're going to choose a hard airbrush, and then fill it in. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to do this. Okay, I think I'm going to fill in. I'm going to fill in the cushion and this piece separate, so we can shade them differently. But when it comes to the wood grain, I think I'm just going to do the wood grain on top of a color. So the wood grain will be separate from the base color, which will be interesting. We'll figure it out. Just doing the outline of this chair right now. It's pretty simple. Come in here, erase this cushion part, because once we do this, we can use that as a selection for the cushion, and that'll help us out. Alright, let's do another layer for the cushion. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the picture of the layer here. I'm going to say select, and then I'm going to do invert selection down here. So now when I do the cushion layer, I'm just choosing another gray just so I can see the difference. I don't have to worry about this edge at all. I can just fill it in. Also, alternatively, you can just put the chair layer over the cushion layer, and it would just hide any bleeding over. Okay, one more layer for the side view up here. All right, now let's put some lighting and shadows on these guys. So I'll start with the box, or the main chair here. I'll select the image, say select, and then take white and use a soft airbrush and just come in here and really put white on the parts that need it. Now, so if the light's kind of coming from this way, from this corner, I always have the light shining from the front. That means that the top is going to be the lightest part. And then the front, right here, is going to be second to lightest. Same with like this little area right here. And then this side will be the darkest. And we'll choose like a 60-70% dark here on the side. Pretty straightforward actually, so let's just get a harder airbrush, maybe a medium hard. Is that too hard? Maybe too hard. Do a medium airbrush. I kind of like doing a like if I wanted to really zoom in here, what I'm doing with the medium airbrush is coming up to this edge. You know, we did these two lines here. I'm coming up to this edge and giving it a gradient. I mean, you can barely see that, but it's kind of a gradient going over. I mean, that's just like a really subtle thing, and you're probably never really gonna notice, but you know, every little trick helps. This is a pretty easy one to light just because it's a box essentially. There's no curves or anything going on with this chair, so if we want, we can take just another, like the soft airbrush, maybe the big one, and just kind of dust this front face here, or this the back seat. I mean, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of difference from this side to this side. Just gives it some more dimension. We should switch back to our medium airbrush. Might be a little bit too, well, let's see. I think this might be a little bit too dark. Let's bring it up 50%. You can always kind of adjust the contrast later, but if it's really too blaring, you kind of lose a little bit of definition. All right, and then right here on this front face, it's going to be a little bit darker, like 30% maybe. Because if you think about it, this is tilted back, so it's getting a little bit more light. Like if we imagine horizontal is all the light, and 90 degrees is some of the light, well, in between that is going to be a little bit lighter than 90 degrees. And down here, there's going to be a little bit of shadow from this cushion. So it's probably going to be about like that. All right. So now we'll add in some of those small tweaks here. So if we want to kind of highlight this edge, do something like that. Same with this piece down here. This really helps pop these things out. Really important. Of course, the top of this is going to be bright. This is almost flat. You don't see this surface, but it's flat. And it's curving over here, so. Okay. Put a little bit of white down here on this corner. We can do the reverse over here. Put a little bit of a dark edge. You can really see how those extra lines around this pop those notches out and really kind of makes the sketch 10 times better, honestly. Come in here, put a little bit of a shadow under here. It's all about these fillets, everything has a small little curve to it on its edge. I mean, the only thing it probably doesn't is a knife, and even then you probably want to put it on there just for sanity's sake. But just trying to do this extra little bit on every single edge can really pop out any sketch. Doesn't even matter what kind of edge it is. Alright. Let's do our cushion now. So, kind of have our colors already set here. Cushion's a little easier. Of course, the cushion's going to be much more of a softer. You'll probably want a soft airbrush for this cushion. When you do a much softer material, you use a softer brush for once, and then you also can kind of blend. Kind of want to blend. It doesn't have to be super I'm kind of being a little blotchy with it just because it gives it a bit more definition. And we come in here, and on the seam again, we're kind of having this top piece of fabric's coming down into the seam, and the side piece of fabric's coming out. So, it's going to be kind of in the shadow right here. And then we're going to get some highlights coming out of the side here. Kind of like that. And then they'll come down in here for the actual seam and kind of put a dark line through it. Put a little bit of a white edge to this cushion on that side. And then we'll also do a little bit of white on here on the bottom to give it that reflected light. The light's hitting the ground here and then bouncing back up and hitting this. Same over here. But probably not right here. And then also, this is kind of going into the chair right here, so we're gonna just darken that up, especially like right in this corner, and then throw a line just across there to give it that shadow. Maybe a little bit thinner, something like that. And then we'll come in here, do the strap. Like that. Of course, we have different lights going on with the strap too, so come in here with a nice light and really punch out that top layer so it's popping out. Kind of do the same thing with the bottom too. It's going to catch some reflected light, especially since it's probably a piece of webbing or something. And actually, since it is webbing, let's go back to our line work layer and just add in some lines here with a ballpoint. Give those edges a little bit of zigzags. Make it textured. That looks pretty good. We can also come in here. This is probably going to be some sort of felt. I kind of want it to be felt because I like felt. It could be leather if we wanted to, but I'm just going to add in some dots, some circles, some dots. This is another tip, is just you don't have to cover the entire thing with texture. You can just dot it here and there and it gets the point across. Alright, I'm going to come back here to my cushion layer. Didn't actually finish it yet, so going to add in a little bit of shadow down in here where this strap is. And then right here, it's touching the fabric right there. It's probably has an indentation of some sort. Something like that. We can even go as far as taking a light color and kind of pushing it down here. Kind of making that strap kind of stuck onto that fabric. Okay, that's good. And then let's do a quick light on our side view here. I'm just gonna choose like a little bit of a nicer gray, a little bit of a lighter gray. Take a soft airbrush. Come here with some lights, some darks, some lights under the darks. Come in here with the highlights. The darks. Just like that. I mean, we're exaggerating here. I mean, obviously this looks super kind of rounded on the edges, but since it's so small, we kind of need to do that. One thing I forgot to do on this guy, if we go back to our chair, is to do the curve underneath here. So there's probably a little bit of light reflecting back up. I'm just going to put a little bit of light on the back here, the back end. Just like that. Okay, good. Now, let's add in our color. So let's select this chair. I'm going to fill it with some sort of wood color here. Maybe I always enjoy the redder woods. Something kind of along this line. All right, I'm going to change this to multiply just so I can see what I'm doing here, and then just fill it in. I think that looks a little bit too pink. Maybe. Can never really tell. I think that looks a little better. All right, so then for the wood layer, I actually just want to see what kind of brushes Procreate has. I thought there was a wood brush somewhere. Oh, there is. Let's see what this looks like. Not really what we want. But if I take it, oh, I could rotate it. It's interesting, good to know. You could also rotate it, I'm sure, in the brush settings. Okay, so I'm just going to go with a gray and get my let's go with an airbrush, medium airbrush. Come in here, make the line kind of small. I'm going to start on this face because it's going to be easiest. I'm just going to come in here, put some lines on this thing. I might even add in a bit of a knot there. I'm actually just gonna, I think I'm just gonna go through everything, so let's just flow this naturally here. Just worried about this back face right now. And then let's do this top here next. The top you're not going to see as much of. the grain because it's at an angle. So I'm being a little bit more light on the pressure. A little more looser with the grain here. Something kind of like this, maybe. Alright, let's come in here and erase where the grain is not supposed to be now. This isn't usually the method I do for wood. I usually just do it all in one go on the color layer. But since we have a lot of this joinery going on, I really want to accentuate that. And to do that, you have to come in here with your... So, you know, if you cut along the grain, you're going to have this nice, you know, swooshing line work. But if you cut down like a tree, the stump is circular, so you're drawing rings on the wood. And in theory, these rings line up with the actual strokes, just like that. Then over here we'll have the same thing going on. Something like that. I might just do this side now, so do something like this. So I gotta be kind of careful now with this side because I already did this side. I don't want to erase that, so it's not that hard though, honestly. Alright, I'm also gonna, I gotta do this side too, so do the same thing. You know, if you line it up with the strokes you just made, it looks even more realistic. And up here is gonna be kind of like this. Same over here. Alright, so now I can take this layer that I did, and I can multiply it or color burn it, and depending on kind of what I want, I could duplicate it, I could do a multiply on that, just to really get that color the way I want. And then I can also duplicate it and do like I believe an overlay. Let's see. I think what I'm going to try to do is, instead of drawing a whole nother set of lines for the highlights, I'm just going to offset these lines a hair. And then try to do some other effect. Oh, that kind of looks right. Yeah. So an add. Just want to double check everything else here. Okay, so do add, and that'll give us that what we want. Now, you know, these wood grains are going down. They're like going down inside of the wood. So right now I have it so that the light's on top and the dark's on bottom. And what this shows is that the wood grain's actually bumping out. So what we need to do is we need to select this again, and then instead of bringing it up, we'll just take it down. So Something like that. Did you see that? Did you see how it kind of inverted? I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. You can kind of adjust the depth too by how far away it is from the dark part. Can also change the opacity too. So many different things you can adjust here. All right, I mean, I think I'm pretty happy with that. I might actually just group all this so I can kind of keep it aligned here. All right, so for these other layers, I'm going to do some more things. We got to overlay, we got to multiply, color burn, multiply underneath. Gonna take some of these layers down so they're not crazy. Something like that, maybe? All right, let's add some texture to this guy now too, or some color, I mean. Let's select it. I think I just want to do like gray. I mean, that's the normal felt color. Oh, make sure you do it on a new layer here. Select, put it on your new layer, multiply. There we go. Okay. Maybe a little bit lighter. And then let's find some texture that kind of looks like felt. Clouds. We could do flicks. Noise, stubble maybe. Let's see. This clay texture here might look like felt. It actually kind of does. Might actually just take the scale down a little bit. Maybe not. I'm just going to come back in here with an airbrush, just a gray airbrush, and just kind of soften everything back up. I think the texture's a little bit too loud. That looks a little better. And then I'm kind of tempted to just make this handle red, because it's just kind of screaming to be red. I'm just gonna make a new layer right quick. Does that look cool? I don't know if that looks as cool as I thought it would. Let me see what it looks like when we put our layers on here. do our overlay, do our color burn, multiply, could do yellow. I think we're going to do a blue, light blue here. Here's a trick. So if you want to, make something a little bit more pleasing, take your colors and make them complementary to the scene. So this is like an orangey red, and the complementary color to orange and red is almost like a violet. And I'm going to make it a little bit less vibrant, a little more gray. Maybe more of like this color. Yeah, I think it looks all right. Make it a little bit lighter here. All right, now let's do the same thing with our guy up here. So I'm gonna turn off these layers so I can pick colors. Just gonna pick color here. Fill this all in. This is pretty much already good to go. This gray, I'll probably just go ahead and put a gray on it. Then I'll do our wood grain coming across in here really quickly. Do our end grain on the side. Come back in here, select our highlights. Put a few highlights in here. I'm not really going to worry about doing that kind of layer trick that we did before. And this is plenty adequate for what we're trying to do. Okay. And then put the same layers on here, overlay, color burn, multiply. Let's turn these guys on again. Adjust this so that I think our overlay is really too much here. Something like that I think is good. Okay. Now let's I feel like this wood almost looks too cartoony with this layer technique that I just did. I kind of want to add some extra texture to it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just let's turn these off. I'm gonna take this color here. I'm gonna do another layer, a little bit darker, and then remember there's a stubble brush. That's gonna look like actual like wood grain. This is just, oh, okay, hang on a second, let's select this. Oh, I totally forgot to do these notches down here. Well, let's do those right quick. I guess we're gonna have to redo. I think it's fine. I think we'll just, actually, let me see here. Okay, let's do this. Okay, can't believe I forgot that. And then we'll just duplicate, multiply, change that to 35. I'm going to duplicate this again here, and then select it and bring it down. Delete. Okay, so if I just do that and then delete this one. All right, I mean, yeah, it's fine. This one's taking a little bit longer than usual, guys. That's okay. Sometimes you gotta put in the work. All right, it's time to just, let's group everything together. Or actually, well, yeah, we can group things together. I'm gonna come in here. I like to add in some highlights just with a white airbrush to pop some of these features out here. So, you know, something right there. It's kind of like what we were doing earlier with the lighting and the shadow, but you know, essentially this is just on the wood part, or like glossy highlights. I mean, I could even come in here. Is that too much? That might be too much. I think I might take this and make the front of this a little bit darker, like that. Yeah, that looks good, I think. All right. Oh, let's put some highlights on this cushion here. Okay. Let's add new layer, and we'll do our drop shadow. I think the longest chair sketch I've ever done was, I want to say like 2 hours, and I want to say it was the Chair Max. If you guys remember that one, it's an inflatable chair, and it just took so long because it had so many layers, because I wanted to make it look like it was clear, like inflatable. So I did all the layers of the inflatable cushion and everything. Any chair with layers or clear chair takes a long time. Alright, I'm just going to fill in my shadow layer here with an airbrush here, medium hard. Am I doing something wrong? Oh, I know what I'm doing. Okay. I shouldn't be able to color over my chair with the shadow if I did it right. But I just put it under the wrong thing. Let's move that up. Adjust this a little bit. My add layer here where the wood grain is coming onto the shadow, and that does not look right, so I'm going to erase that part. Just like that. Okay. Now we can group everything. Group. And then we'll group our side view. And then we can move these guys around here. I'm going to move this down a hair. I can probably make it bigger too. I always try to make it as big as I possibly can to fit in the square for Instagram, so you get the most detail, you know? All right. Does this guy need to be bigger? Yeah, he could be a little bit bigger. Let's do a vignette. The box behind the sketch gives it some structure, some more definition, makes the sketch pop out a bit more. Using the special line trick to keep the line straight. And then I'll come back in fill in those corners, and then adjust where the box is. So an interesting way to think about this is you can kind of, I'm actually going to make this smaller because it was, I think, almost too big. Oh, I try to first of all make the vignette even on each side, so you know it doesn't, it's not like this, and that's okay to do. You can do that too, but in my recent trends, I've been just making it even, just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be 100%. And then kind of just moving this guy around until he looks about right. And then the thing with the vignette box is that you have to make sure that it doesn't cross over at any intersections or points. So right now it's crossing right at this edge, and that's bad, so I need to bring it down to right here. And then this is crossing right at that arrow, so I'm going to bring it in a hair. Just like that. And then I'll erase it. See, we're good on the main chair. Nothing is intersecting. Okay. We'll add in some callouts here. Almost finished. Let's say the callouts are a great way to also add in, like, I think I might do like box joinery up here. I believe it's box joinery. I'll have to look it up in a second. And then down here I'll do like felt ottoman. I usually do 2 callouts, but I think I might do 3 on this guy. So I'm going to do the box joinery right here. You know what? I take that back. Just going to do 2 callouts. Thought about doing like pull out ottoman or something like that, but I don't think so. Also going to make this side view a little bit bigger because he's not quite. I think I'll leave it. I think it's good. Let's call it a night. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you liked, what you disliked. You know, let's keep this conversation open. I mean, I'm doing this to build up this awesome community. So let me know. Peace out.